Hey guys, unless you've been living under a rock for the past few weeks, I'm sure you've been aware of the Galfond challenge and him coming back from almost $1 million down against Venividi to pull off one of the biggest comebacks in poker history and win that challenge in the very last few hands. Now today, I want to talk about the mindset of Phil Galfond and how he was able to do something very, very clever at the less than midway point in order to give himself the best opportunity to win the challenge. Now, around 10,000 hands into the challenge, his graph was looking a bit like this, and he was at the peak low point. He was like 900,000, almost $1 million in the hole, and everyone thought he had no chance. Now, if you listen to interviews from Phil Galfond around that time, he was saying he didn't know what to do, he felt a bit defeated, his A game had drifted into his C game, and he didn't know whether to continue the challenge. So at this point, he did something which was a bit controversial. He took a break from the challenge. He just completely stopped it, and he took a fine, a 6 or 7 day fine, to not play it, and so he could think clearly. And this was a very, very clever move, and I'm going to talk about why it was such a brilliant move from his part, and how it gave him the opportunity to win the challenge. So, if you look at Phil Galfond's mindset going into the challenge, he's just challenged the poker world, he's set up all these exciting events on his poker site, and he's really excited and looking forward to them. So his expectations are pretty high overall. So if you think about his expectations on a graph, they're pretty high, right? They're pretty high expectations. And even if he thought, okay, things might not go that well, there was so many upsides for him to take on these challenges from launching his site, and it was just a big upside overall. But someone like Phil Galfond, or anyone who's thinking about taking on big projects, you always in the back of your mind think about what's the worst case scenario. So Galfond hasn't played much online recently, so he would have been thinking, what was if I get my ass whooped? How bad could it get? So he would have ran some calcs, and he would have calculated how bad it could get. My predictions were he didn't think it could go nearly $1 million in the hole in the first 10,000 hands. I'm sure he could verify that. So he probably thought, worst case scenario, maybe go down $500,000, maybe go down to here, but not this far, not this far. And it exceeded his worst nightmare. First 10,000 hands, imagine that, public challenge on your site, the whole world watching, and you go nearly $1 million down, way worse than you thought. What do you do? So what Galfond did is, he did a very, very clever thing. He decided to stop the challenge so he could recalibrate. When we take on challenges of any sort and things go worse than our worst expectations, so his worst expectations might have been minus $1 million, it's almost double that, it's getting scary, you have to stop. You have to stop for a few reasons. One, you're out of your depth. So very quickly, your mind gets very blurry. Because when you expect things could go this bad, but they go twice as worse, you feel like you're sinking. And you feel like you don't even have control anymore. You don't even know, because your worst expectations have been exceeded. So the best thing you can do is stop at that moment and go, whoa, I've miscalculated how bad it could get. Am I still ready? And in that moment, it would have been very easy for Galfond to stop the challenge and quit altogether. But he gave himself 6 days of not playing to think about it. And what I predict he did at that time, he recalibrated from that moment here. What's the new worst case scenario? What's the new worst case scenario? Because we're on track to go down 2 million at this rate. What's the new one? And I'm sure I would have came up with some stop losses of how bad things could go. And we're all human. We've all got tolerances. We've all got a mindset that can only take so much. Galfond's got an amazing mindset, but he was towards his tolerance around the million part. And the reason was, it was worse than his worst case scenarios. So he stopped and he reset his expectations. And he asked himself the question, can I still pull this off? Can I still come back from the depths, which I'm sure nobody give him a single shot at? Or am I willing to take the worst case scenario? Like, how bad can I get from this moment, and am I willing to? So in those 6 days, he got clarity. He reassessed. I'm sure he came with a new worst case scenario. He probably wouldn't have let it go to 2 million. Maybe he would have let it go to minus $1.5 million. I don't know what his stop loss in his head was, but he came with a new figure that he was happy with. So if you think about Galfond in those 6 days, he gets clear, okay, I'm this much down. I'm willing to go this much further down. Just knowing that gives you clarity. Just knowing that you can stop at a certain point gives you breathing space. If you're just going into oblivion and you're past your worst case scenario and you keep going and you're in the heat of battle and you're using your ego and expectations, which would have been so easy for Phil to get caught in, the whole world's watching, it's very, very hard to stop a public challenge like that. For him to go, I'm going to stop. I'm going to have a few days to think about myself. I'm going to have this time to recalibrate my expectations, was an absolute genius move. And somehow, throughout that downswing, he maintained his confidence that he could come back. Most people, at this point, when you recalibrate, you probably go, you know what? Now is probably a good time to stop. Galfond didn't do that. He said, I'm willing to take on more risk and I'm going to give it a go. And we all know what happens. He comes back and pulls off the biggest comeback I've ever seen in poker. I'm sure it's got to be one of the most unbelievable comebacks of all time. But he did it because he remanaged his expectations. He understood that his mindset was the key variable. He was a great player. Probably evenly matched players skill-wise. Obviously, the result came down to the last $1,000, shows quite an even skill level. But his mindset had drifted because he went below his worst expectations. So what you can learn from this is, if life throws you off, if you go into a scenario in life and it goes worse than you expected, worse than you could have imagined, you've got to stop and recalibrate. Am I willing to still go on from this point? And how bad can it get from now? Until you get that, you've got no clarity. So when Phil came back after the 6-day break, I don't know what miracle he did on those 6 days, but he had clarity again. He was back in touch with just playing his best poker. And rather than worrying, because what would have been happening around this point is, around the 700,000, 800,000, he's not thinking about playing poker anymore. He's starting to think, how bad can it get? Then you start to play defense. Then you start to try and not make mistakes. And you're like, oh, you're worried because things have exceeded how bad they could go. When you recalibrate and go, okay, this is the new scenario, how bad can it get? You can then go, okay, I accept this. I accept how bad it could go. All I'm going to focus on is playing my best from now, knowing that it's going to be good enough. Well, it's going to be as good as it can be, and I'm willing to accept the consequences. So yeah, I thought it was an absolute genius move, like for him to stop the challenge. I thought it was so brave for him to take the 6-day buffer, like paying a fine every day, rather than just going, you know what, I'm $1 million down within 10,000 hands, I'm done, I'm out. I thought it was really brave for him really clever to spend 6 days thinking about stuff, recalibrating new worst expectations, then getting back in there and then pulling off the biggest miracle comeback ever. So shout out to Phil Galfond, well done for that. You can all learn a lot from him. I can learn a lot from the way he approaches life, the way he approaches mindset. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comments. And there's going to be plenty more coming from me very soon.